everybody, welcome back. This is what happens when exes get invited to weddings. A super dramatic wedding I attended. A few years ago, my family and I got invited to my second cousin's wedding. The bride, my cousin, and the groom were wonderful people in their mid-20s who had known each other since middle school.
Oh, that is cute.
They were very much in love and had been deemed the perfect couple by my entire family. The wedding was exquisite. It was a large outdoor wedding with beautiful decorations and flowers everywhere. It was a shame it ended up being nearly ruined. First of all, the bride and groom had to wait 45 minutes because the groom's mother was late. What possible reason could she have had to be that late to a wedding? She showed up in a fancy white dress that could rival the bride's and insisted in being in all of the pre-wedding photos, which made it hard to tell who was the bride and visibly upset the actual bride.
It's a total move.
I mean, I would say it would be easy to tell because she'd be the one crying. The groom's mother then started verbally attacking the bride on her appearance, among other things, which left her close to tears. Hell no. Oh God, it gets worse. It gets worse. It gets worse. I didn't know it was possible, but it does get worse.
Kind of like my life.
When it came to say the vows, the best man stepped forward and professed his undying love for the bride, saying that he'd been in love with her ever since high school. Okay, this is not the place to do this. A wedding is not the place to do this. And frankly, I don't think there's ever going to be a place to do that. Ever. If you're so damn in love with the bride, then maybe you should have done something about it before she was engaged to somebody else. He proceeded to list all the things he loved about her, including some pretty graphic things he wanted to do to her. Oh God, in front of everyone? Dear Lord, this poor bride. He claimed she knew she felt the same way. About that. I mean, she's like in a wedding dress marrying somebody else, so. But the bride just shook her head, looking extremely uncomfortable and even a little bit scared. If anybody ever did this, you're getting kicked out. Jail. I know it's not a crime, but like, you're going to jail. In my books, it's a crime. He was escorted out of the premises unwillingly. Good. Yes, good. At least there's somewhat of a happy ending. To top it all off, the groom's ex-girlfriend decided it was the right time to object to their marriage and claimed that it should have been her at the altar with the groom. Then why didn't you do something about it before the wedding? Drama! A wedding is not an open invitation to arrive and then try to ruin it. That's a very expensive party that y'all tried to ruin. But after that whole mess was taken care of, the bride and groom got married and the wedding party was still awesome. Despite the shaky wedding, they're still as happy as a couple as they were before the wedding, and they've been married for 5 years and have 2 beautiful little girls. Like I said, a very dramatic wedding. Pretty much everything that could have gone wrong at this wedding went wrong. You got the mother-in-law wearing a white dress. You got the mother-in-law berating the bride. You got the ex of the bride showing up. You got the ex of the groom showing up and trying to ruin the wedding. I'm glad that it didn't ruin the marriage. Could this be a rule? The more dramatic the wedding, the better the marriage? I hope not. I would hope that most weddings are normal. I really hope the mother-in-law has been cut out of their lives. She made her hate and spite toward the bride well known. She does not belong in her life. When you do these types of things publicly around other people, it doesn't make someone else look bad. It makes you look bad. Mother-in-law still left nasty comments under the bride's social media posts after the wedding, but she stopped about a year ago. For the most part, the groom and bride aren't in contact with her at all anymore. Well, I'm glad to hear it. That's what she deserves. Don't invite exes to your wedding. It almost always ends badly. Okay, but like, you can't always do that. What happens when there's shared custody of a child? Sometimes you're still friends with your ex. Moral of a story, don't invite your ex to the wedding. Would you guys invite your ex to your wedding? Let me know. Oh, that's weird that this is the title of the next one. Would you ever invite your ex to your wedding? So as the title states, I was invited to my ex's wedding about a little less than 2 years after we broke up. We dated when I was 15, he was 16, broke up about 8 months later at 16 and 17. That summer, he met someone new. I knew because I was the one dumped, and since he was my first love, I was high-key cyber stalking him. Okay, glad you can admit it, babes. About a year goes by and I let it go and continued on with my life, now that my first breakup wasn't actually the end of the world like I thought it would be. I was working at the summer job we both used to work at, and the only mutual friend/acquaintance we had gave me the invitation. Needless to say, I was super weirded out. I RSVP'd no because I didn't really want to go, and said friend said I was being a I don't think it's a move to not go to your ex's wedding. It's polite to send the invitation. It's not necessary for you to show up. Like, that's just like a recipe for disaster. Weddings are supposed to be about love. There isn't supposed to be any animosity in the room. There's no need to invite your ex. Like, I really don't feel there is, unless maybe there's kids involved. And even then, not necessary. So wait, you're telling me that he was like 18 years old when he got married? I wasn't even 18 and I was invited to my first boyfriend's wedding. Oh, that's a little early. I mean, no judgment, I guess, but like, all right. I was raised by parents who believe early marriage is worse than boiling live puppies. Okay, that's graphic. The concept of such a young couple weirded me out to the extreme. Also, their registry was insane. The cheapest thing was a towel set for the bathroom, face, hands, body towels, and it was over $350. That's weird. It's like they just invited you because they thought that maybe you'd get them a gift.
Yes.
Sometimes I think that's all it is, honestly. Considering it was a traditional Italian wedding bankrolled by their parents, I wasn't surprised, but the invite said a gift from the registry or a monetary gift of equal amount was highly encouraged. Okay, but for people who actually go, right? Like, if you don't go, then you don't have to get them a gift. Who actually puts that on an invite? It wasn't on an additional page, it was right on it. So I said no and said friend/acquaintance was no longer because of said dispute. I wasn't that upset about it. The wedding was called off 5 days before and she left him for some childhood crush who was a surfer in Australia or something stupid. Oh, stop it. Actually, I'm not like angry about it though. This is why it's like, that's a little young to be getting married. Like, aren't we still a little bit confused and like kind of wanting to like play the field a little bit, know what we want? Sounded like something from a bad rom-com. I genuinely feel like the only reason why they invited you is because they wanted a gift or money. Why? Why would you put your ex through that? That's so inappropriate. I am coming to the conclusion that it's probably just better to not invite your ex. Am I the a-hole for accidentally going to my ex's wedding? How does one accidentally go to your ex's wedding?
For revenge.
Ora! I, 35 female, should start by acknowledging that 10 years ago, I was a huge a-hole. I'm glad you can admit it, babes. It's good to admit these things, you know? By the way, I used to be a doesn't make it better, but it's good that you know that. I had a drinking problem and treated the folks around me terribly, including my ex-boyfriend. I'm sober 4 years now, working my program, trying to put better things into the universe. I recently started my first relationship while sober, and things are going well. We're about 3 months in. He, 35 male, knows I'm in recovery and that I had a lot of folks to make amends to in my life. A couple weeks ago, we took a small step into being more serious when he invited me to a college friend's wedding, where I would get to meet a lot of the folks he went to school with. His friend was the bride. The day of the wedding, we were getting ready at his apartment, and I saw on the invite that the groom's name was pretty similar to my ex's. I didn't put the pieces together because my ex has an extremely common name. Think Bob Smith or Steve Jones level common. The invite used a variation of the first name that is not what he went by when we were together. I also thought my ex had moved across the country after things ended between us. Okay. We showed up at the church and sat with my boyfriend's friends on the bride's side. We had arrived before most people settled into their seats, and I didn't see anyone I recognized at the time. So I relaxed and I chatted with the folks near us. When I heard the music for the ceremony starting, I looked forward and saw the groom was my ex, and it was too late to leave quietly. Oh no. Oh, that is so awkward. I honestly probably would have ducked and like crawled on the floor. I put my head down and tried to be as non-conspicuous as possible, but he definitely saw me because he turned as white as a ghost. Brother, oh dear. Oh dear. Imagine you're the groom and you see that, you probably think that she showed up to ruin your wedding. I told my boyfriend the 30-second version of what happened, and he agreed that we would skip the reception. When the ceremony ended, we tried to exit quietly, but my ex saw me on the way out of the church and got super angry, called me all sorts of names, and I said I ruined his wedding by being there. Ooh, okay, all right. I mean, you didn't know. So it's good that you admitted that you were an a-hole, because this makes a lot of sense. I do feel like there maybe should have been some sort of communication. Like, you say that you're apologizing to people that you hurt in the past. There probably should have been some sort of communication since then, but I digress. The bride was silently shooting daggers next to him the whole time. I just kept apologizing and saying it was a mistake, but I've spent the last weeks agonizing over whether I should have been more careful or double checked before just showing up. I guess you could have in hindsight, but that's a really freaky coincidence. Like, at the end of the day, it is a coincidence. I don't know. I'm also trying to figure out if I should send a gift or a card or something apologizing again and explaining what happened. Before realizing the groom was my ex, I contributed to the gift my boyfriend was giving, but didn't send anything separately. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. This is a toughie. Thank you to everyone who commented, especially those who shared advice. I don't want to re-traumatize my ex, and many of the comments made me realize apologizing directly could do that. Okay, all right. I mean, we don't know what happened in your relationship, so I'm not sure how it could re-traumatize him, but if you're saying it could, then I believe you. It would be more for my benefit than for his. That's a good point. Sometimes I feel like we apologize literally just because we feel guilty, not because we're actually sorry. Not the a-hole. I mean, you didn't intentionally go to his wedding. Also, it was 10 years ago. Why is this guy ruining his own wedding for it? He could have just ignored you and let you leave. That is a good point. It was 10 years ago, but it also depends on like what happened in their relationship. Like if it really was as bad as she says it was, then like, you know, maybe he has a right to be mad. We don't know the extent of it. If she traumatized him, it doesn't work like that. I've dated an alcoholic, and if I saw him again after the things he'd done, I couldn't promise I would be rational on a highly emotional day. There you go. If I saw my abusive, toxic ex at my wedding even 10 years later, I would be pissed, horrified, worried they'd attended on purpose to F with me. It would definitely throw me off and put me in a bad place for what was supposed to be a happy occasion. It was an accident, but we also have to come to terms with the fact that when we hurt people, there are consequences, even 10 years later. You're not an asshole in this instance, but you were an asshole back in the day. It reminds me of a time when I showed up to my boyfriend's friend's engagement party and the bride was actually someone that really, really hated me back in the day. She like unfollowed me on social media. I don't even remember what it was about, but we were not friends, okay? And it was very awkward seeing her and I was like, oh, okay, you're marrying that one. Okay, sure, yeah. Happy for you, babes. Happy for you. Little do you know. People change, people can change. Maybe she's changed, I don't know.
She didn't.
Went to my ex's wedding and it was awesome. Okay, let's end this on a high note. Hopefully it's a high note. Hopefully this isn't a petty revenge story. Could that mean it's a high note? Let's find out. Just wanted to share. Up until literal minutes before we left for the event, I wasn't sure I would go. I really didn't want to go. Lots of reasons. Not to mention, weddings are just funerals with cake. Nice. And that there's no such thing as eternal love, yada yada. You know what? Zip it for the hopeless romantics. Let me be Delulu. Other reasons why I didn't want to go included the fact that people don't like me, and I don't like people. Great. I also don't like many people, so can relate. So I arrived, and I was mortified. Several women were there in impressive outfits, incredible dresses, and I was wearing a casual shirt and pants and a pair of running shoes. Well, there's your first red flag. My partner was in a t-shirt. Okay. I spent 15 minutes planning my escape, just figuring out where to leave the gift and split, when the trans guests started arriving. They were dressed exactly like me, lol. Okay, yeah, fair enough. That went in a direction I wasn't expecting, okay. I knew a couple of them, so we started talking. Then when the rest of the guests had arrived, I realized about 40% were trans, another 40 were gay, and the remaining 20%, who knows? It's fine. So I felt better. Then the brides arrived. They were so happy. The DJ was incredible. I'm so booking her for whenever I'm having an event. Another thing that bothered me was my alcoholism, but even though I drank half a bottle of whiskey, I didn't get drunk and behaved flawlessly. You sure about that? Anyways, I split early because I just couldn't stand the noise anymore. I'm not neurotypical, loud music just kills me. Anyway, just wanted to share how awesome the experience was. I was mortified at first, but don't regret anything. I'm glad to know there can be some instances where going to an ex's wedding isn't the worst idea you've ever had. But most of the time, I think we can all agree, not worth it. Subscribe!